How can you breathe more life into a grave site? Keep listening for the story of Paris's renovated catacombs. Hi there, it's Jeff, and this is Plain English on Monday, June 1st, 2026. Here at Plain English, we tell stories about current events and trending topics at a nice, slow pace so you can understand every word. Today's story is about the catacombs in Paris. They are the world's largest ossuary, burial ground for bones. And they just got a renovation. Today, you'll learn what the catacombs are, how they started, and why they needed a facelift after so long. This is episode 869 of Plain English, so you can find the transcript, quiz, exercises, and more at plainenglish.com/869. Before we start today's story, I'd just like to remind you that the podcast is just one part of how we can help you upgrade your English skills. At plainenglish.com, you can make faster progress with active learning strategies. You can take quizzes, do activities, listen to the fast version of the audio, watch video workshops, practice what you learn, and even join a live call with JR and me. It's all about helping you build your skills to become a better, more confident English speaker. Sound good? Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today. Now, let's jump into today's story. When you think of Paris, you probably think of the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame Cathedral, the Louvre, or the Musée d'Orsay. But these are all above ground. Perhaps Paris's most unique attraction is below ground, the catacombs. The catacombs are a network of underground tunnels, totaling about 300 kilometers, and they're below the city. The catacombs are limestone quarries. The limestone used to build Notre Dame and the Louvre came from underground, just outside what was then Paris's city limits. After miners extracted the limestone, they were left with a vast network of underground tunnels. The tunnels, at the time, had no use, so they sat empty. Paris grew in both population and land area. By the late 18th century, the city had expanded to the land above the underground tunnels, and it was causing problems. In the late 1700s, a massive sinkhole swallowed a large section of a public street. If residents of the city didn't know about the limestone tunnels before, they certainly did then. At the same time, the city was facing a new kind of pressure. Cemeteries were filling up. Paris's cemeteries had been built as far back as the 10th century, meaning that the oldest ones contained 800 years of bodies. And in those days, people weren't quite as careful with cemeteries as we are today. One of Paris's cemeteries had a 2-meter-high mound of earth packed densely with human remains. Bodies were stacked one on top of another, barely covered with soil. A neighbor complained that the smell would cause milk and wine to go sour. That neighbor may or may not have been exaggerating, but the smell was definitely bad, and the groundwater near the cemeteries became contaminated, spreading disease. As you can imagine, most graves weren't marked with gravestones, and relatives didn't come to place flowers and visit. So finally, in 1785, Paris had had enough. The city decided to move the bones from the cemeteries, and they had a perfect place for them: the tunnels under the city. The 2-year project relocated unmarked human remains from the city's cemeteries into the empty limestone tunnels. It wasn't long before a city inspector named Héricart de Thury turned the piles of bones into a museum. Workers rearranged the remains into decorative walls. Femurs and tibias stacked in rows, with the occasional skull mixed in. Stone inscriptions carved into the walls invited visitors to reflect on mortality. Here's one example from the inscriptions. Where is death? Always ahead or behind. The moment it arrives, it is already gone. The Paris catacombs turned into the world's largest ossuary, and they remain the city's darkest tourist attraction. But only a part of the ossuary is on display. About 1.5 kilometers of tunnels are decorated with bones in the walls. The remaining tunnels are piled high with bones out of sight. It's unlikely that Héricart de Thury could have envisioned what the catacombs have become. Today, around 600,000 visitors tour them every year. You have to buy a timed ticket well in advance if you want to visit. And it turns out all those visitors have an impact on the underground environment. The carbon dioxide that visitors breathe out started to affect both the limestone tunnels and the bones. The tunnels and the bones survived for hundreds of years. It was only after they were exposed to so many visitors that they started to deteriorate. And safety regulations have changed a bit since the 1800s too. So in 2023, Paris launched a 3-year renovation program. All the electrical systems were completely replaced. New air handling units were installed to regulate carbon dioxide, temperature, and humidity. The lighting was upgraded to show previously dark segments. Fire and safety systems were replaced, a new floor was installed, and there's even a new audio guide in 4 languages. This would be a big construction project anywhere, but it was especially difficult in underground tunnels. Everything, every bit of material, had to go down 130 stairs. There are no elevators. Construction workers labored in dark, cramped conditions, 20 meters underground. Some workers quit on their first day. Working in cramped, damp tunnels underground, accessible only by stairs and surrounded by bones, it's not for everyone. The 3-year project started in 2023. The final phase required the catacombs to close to the public for 5 months, from November 2025 until April 2026. Now, the renovated catacombs are open for visitors again. Although the catacombs are a tourist attraction, they are still human remains. Nobody knows the names or any biographical details of the people buried there, but they are still people. The project manager said, "The goal isn't to turn the catacombs into Disneyland." A stonemason said of the project, "It puts us back in our place as mortals." Will I be brave enough to visit the catacombs if I go back to Paris? Good question. I am not sure. I went to a similar museum in the city of Guanajuato, Mexico. There they have mummies on display in an underground museum. These are not like what I imagine Egyptian mummies to be. These that I saw were not all wrapped up and preserved. They looked like, and they were, preserved dead bodies. It gave me nightmares for weeks. The catacombs are probably less intense than the Mummy Museum in Guanajuato, but I'm still not sure if I'd be prepared to visit. That's all for this Plain English. This was episode 869, so check out plainenglish.com/869 for the full episode, including a chance to practice what you've learned. plainenglish.com/869. We'll be back on Thursday with an expressions episode and next Monday with a new story. See you then. Listen up if you speak Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, or Turkish. One of the most frustrating things about listening and reading in a second language is being confused by unfamiliar words or phrases. When you listen to plain English, or when you read the transcript, you probably encounter some words you don't know. When that happens, you have a few options. You can stop the audio, go look up the definition, then return to the episode, find your place, and press play again, but that's exhausting. Or you can just skip it and be confused. That's no fun either. But what if you could see the translation of the word into your language instantly without having to stop the audio, without having to look anything up? Well, you can at plainenglish.com. For each episode, we translate about 100 words and phrases from English to 9 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, and Turkish. And we highlight those words in blue. All you have to do is hover your mouse over the highlighted word, and you'll see the translation instantly. It works great on mobile too. It really makes listening a lot more satisfying, and it's a great way to expand your vocabulary in English. The best way to see these translations is to sign up for a free 14-day trial at plainenglish.com. During your trial, you can read as many transcripts as you like, all with the translations into your language. So sign up for your free trial today at plainenglish.com.